Jacob, what can the government claim to have achieved on this trip?
Look, I think it's reinforced that we have a relationship with China. We have left that period of the past where we were being, in direct conflict with Beijing. They were hitting us with tariffs. I think that's well and truly behind us off the back of this trip. As you said, there is an audience, and there is an audience in China and there's an audience in Australia. And the Prime Minister's been thinking, I think, about both of those audiences. He copped a bit of criticism today from the opposition, particularly James Paterson, who said it's all starting to look a bit like a lark with visits to the tennis and the Great Wall and pandas. The Prime Minister pushing back on that idea, suggesting really that what he's doing here is showcasing Australia to an audience of 1 billion Chinese. They're the people we want to come to Australia, on holidays, from the Prime Minister's point of view. And I think there's a political edge to that as well. He's effectively pointing the camera back to the opposition and asking, how are you helping build this relationship, or are you niggling? It's a subtle dig, but unmistakable.
And what about on the purely domestic front, just on the pure politics of it? Is there also a political message to Australians with Chinese heritage in this as well?
Well, absolutely, and both sides really are very conscious of this. We've seen that with the opposition leader Susan Lee making a point of visiting Chinese communities. She's done it this week in Perth. She talked about it again today, but she's not holding back. She says he's still essentially not achieving very much on this trip. And I think the Prime Minister's view is that resonates poorly against the opposition with that community you've just mentioned.
Now, going to the bigger questions, the geostrategic questions, I know the opposition during the week was saying they wanted to hear more about assurances from the Chinese on repetitions of the live firing exercises, at least this, to the extent that there are warnings. Is it realistic that the Prime Minister can actually secure some kind of commitment from the Chinese, and was he looking for one?
Well, I think that if there is a weakness from this trip, the trade side has been, I think, very effective for him. It's really reset that relationship. But as you say, we have unanswered questions, particularly around whether his appeal or request from Xi Jinping to be given more notice the next time the Chinese Navy sends a group of ships to the south. We don't have an answer from that. The Prime Minister hasn't made it clear what he got back on that. We also don't really know, Sarah, how strong the Chinese concern was about the Port of Darwin issue. This is this move to get ownership of the port back into Australian hands. We know China's unhappy about that. We don't know how unhappy they are behind the scenes and how much pressure they're putting on the Prime Minister. But I think for him, it's the trade piece that's been successful.
I want to talk about Taiwan as well, because during this week, both with the Prime Minister but also with the Deputy Prime Minister back at home, they've been very careful to maintain the status quo position on Taiwan. But there was something, there was a shift during the week from the opposition, Angus Taylor, on this programme, answering questions about why Australia should give pre-commitments to the Americans about coming to their defence in the event of hostilities over Taiwan. They were obviously the questions that chased the Prime Minister on his way to China. But I just want to play now what Angus Taylor said when we were discussing that earlier this week. Angus Taylor, why should Australia make a pre-commitment of that nature when the United States retains some ambiguity over its position vis-à-vis Taiwan?
What I am saying we should commit to is a joint commitment to the security of Taiwan, to peace in the Taiwan Strait, and I'll say it again. I mean, and they are absolutely underpinning commitments.
I want to fish out the key phrase there, which is a commitment to the security of Taiwan. Now, that is not Australian government policy, and as far as I knew, it wasn't opposition policy. Is Angus Taylor trying to shift the ground here for the opposition?
Well, he denies that, Sarah, but there's no question that his comments have raised eyebrows in especially the Canberra national security community. Taiwan is perhaps the most sensitive issue in Australian diplomacy, and that sensitivity is very much reflected in the official language that you get. As you said, we stick to a very tight set of talking points, Australian officials, that is. Now, Angus Taylor has, in the view of some of these sources that I've been speaking to, certainly pushed the boat out here. He's gone further than what certainly previous governments, coalition governments have said on this issue. The pre-commitment issue is very vexing because it essentially would pre-commit future governments. Now, my understanding is that Angus Taylor is saying that Donald Trump has said there will be no invasion of Taiwan while he is president, and that implies, in essence, a kind of pre-commitment. But Donald Trump's also said very clearly himself in February, one of his very first cabinet meetings, that he wouldn't pre-commit like that. He never wanted to ever find himself in that position. So it is a very interesting shift in language. There will be more to come, I think, on this debate, Sarah.
Well, Jacob, lots of questions for us to pursue next week when Parliament resumes. Look forward to being there with you. Thank you very much in the meantime.
Indeed. We'll see you there.